The girlfriend he had been dating for over 2 years suddenly didn't recognize him. A few days ago, during a voice chat, a netizen shared an intriguing story from the early 2000s. Back then, this netizen was in a relationship, and they had been together for over 2 years. One time, the two of them went to a motel near a university town, a place where you could watch DVDs and stay overnight, kind of like a private cinema today. However, the conditions back then were quite basic. It was a 3-story building. The first floor was an internet cafe, the second floor was empty, and the third floor was entirely a motel. A long corridor ran through the middle, with small rooms lining both sides. Each room only had a sofa bed, and at the foot of the bed, a TV and a DVD player. By the time they finished dinner, used the internet, and checked into the motel, it was already past 11 p.m. Since the rooms didn't have private bathrooms, guests had to use the communal facilities at either end of the hallway. After taking a quick shower, the netizen returned to the room, set up the DVD, and lay down to watch the movie. A little while later, his girlfriend came back from her shower, complaining about encountering a pervert. She said that when she was on her way back, she saw a man standing by the door of a room diagonally across the hallway. He was shirtless and wearing nothing but red briefs, staring at her intently. At the time, the netizen was in his early 20s, full of youthful vigor. Hearing that his girlfriend had been ogled by some creepy guy, he stormed out of the room. The hallway was straight, and he looked in both directions, but didn't see anyone. He asked his girlfriend, which room was he in? She pointed at the door, and he marched over, pounding on it and shouting, "Come out, you creep!" But no matter how hard he banged on the door, no one answered. Pressing his ear to the door, he couldn't hear any movement inside either. Left with no choice, he went back to his room. After returning, the two of them started watching the movie. At that time, gangster films like Young and Dangerous and Lin Zhengying's zombie flicks were all the rage. As they were watching, his girlfriend suddenly said she felt itchy and began scratching her arms and neck. The netizen didn't think much of it. He was engrossed in the movie's climax. A moment later, his girlfriend started crying. Surprised, he turned to ask her, "Why are you crying?" But then she began laughing in a very unsettling way. At that moment, she was sitting with her back to him. The netizen leaned forward and turned her around by her shoulders. As their faces came into close proximity, barely 3 to 4 centimeters apart, he was startled to find that her face had changed. It wasn't her face anymore, it was someone else's. She looked at him, alternating between crying and laughing. Terrified, the netizen sat up abruptly and shouted, "What are you doing?" But his girlfriend began crawling off the bed, trying to leave the room. The netizen used all his strength to grab her and lock his arms around her neck from behind, but she kept struggling. At that point, the netizen realized something was very wrong. His mother was religious and had told him stories before. Suspecting he might be dealing with some kind of spirit, he held his girlfriend with one arm and used his other hand to call his mother. When she picked up, he quickly explained the situation. His mother, knowing his girlfriend's name, began calling out to her loudly over the phone, repeating her name several times. Gradually, his girlfriend stopped laughing and began softly sobbing instead. His mother then asked, "Do you know who I am?" The girlfriend replied, "I know. Your auntie." His mother continued, "Good. Now repeat after me, okay? I'll say something, and you follow along." The girlfriend agreed, and after repeating a few lines, her emotions gradually calmed down, and she stopped crying. After the call, the girlfriend lay down and fell asleep. The netizen, planning to finish the movie, stayed up. But before long, he heard the sound of furniture being moved, tables and chairs scraping against the floor. The noise continued, back and forth. He wondered, who would be moving furniture in the middle of the night? Opening the door, he walked into the hallway and realized the noise was coming from the room diagonally across, the same room where his girlfriend had seen the creepy guy. Furious, he stormed over and pounded on the door again, yelling, "What are you doing in there? It's the middle of the night. Some people are trying to sleep." This time, the banging seemed to work, and the noise stopped. After shouting a few more words, he returned to his room. Back in the room, he found his girlfriend sitting in the corner of the bed, crying. She said, There are two people sitting at the foot of the bed, smiling at me. The netizen looked over and saw nothing, but his girlfriend didn't seem to be faking it. He turned on the light and asked, "Are they still there?" She peeked at the bed from the corner of her eye and quickly looked away, saying, "They're still there." Completely out of options, he hugged his girlfriend and started reciting the prayers his mother had taught him. He repeated them over and over until his girlfriend finally fell asleep. When he checked the time, it was already 5 a.m. Exhausted, he lay down to rest but was woken up at 7 a.m. by his girlfriend, who reminded him they had planned to go out during the day. Annoyed, he snapped, "You kept me up all night, and now you're waking me up so early." But his girlfriend looked at him, confused. "What are you talking about? We went to bed early last night." She had no memory of the events that took place, not even the phone call with his mother. When they went downstairs, they ran into the motel owner, who had come to unlock the doors for the day. The owner explained that for safety reasons, he would lock the stairwell with a gate at midnight and come back at 7 a.m. to open it. If guests needed to leave early, they could call him to unlock it. The netizen casually complained, "You should be more careful. Last night, there was a creepy guy upstairs, shirtless, wearing red briefs, staring at my girlfriend." The owner was stunned. "That's impossible. Last night, you two were the only guests on the entire floor." The netizen didn't believe him. How can that be? The room diagonally across kept making noises like furniture being moved. The owner, equally puzzled, insisted on checking. Together, they opened the door to the room in question. Inside, everything was neatly arranged, and the bed was untouched. There was no sign that anyone had been there.